What's going on, y'all? This is day 3 before I go to prison for 6 to 12 years. It's actually day 2, but my sleep schedule is fucking me up completely. So I gotta make this video right now and make day 2 within a couple hours. And yeah, I just wanted to start just make this a whole video and just start from the root, so that everyone's opinions can be as accurate as possible, and by no means am I trying to gain pity or justify anything I've done. I despise my lifestyle that I lived, and I think it's corny as shit, and, bro, it's just corny. I have no respect for it, because I didn't really, try to make a right way to life. I was trying to just find any way to life to getting by. So it started off a couple years ago. Obviously, it starts off in the house, dysfunction with the family and everything like that. I had a lot of fucking deceitful things, and just the biggest backstabs that have ever happened within my household, within my mom, dad, brothers, and everything like that. So, at that time when I was feeling alone at my dad's house, at the time, I would obviously look to cope in bad ways, just like anybody else would. So, and just being 19 or 18 or however old I was when this began, I didn't have God in my life. I didn't, choose good over evil. So I fell for a lot of this shit, and I started taking pills, Percocets to be exact. Literally Percocets and just opiate pills were my thing, because of the opioid high that you would get. It just takes all your pain away, literally, and it made me feel productive. It made me feel strong and driven. I'd be out trying to get some money, when as soon as I took one, I'd be active, and I loved that energy that I had, and I became addicted to it, low-key. So, when I was associating with my friend from Philly, who's actually in prison right now, we were hanging out a lot, and he got me, I wouldn't say he got me into it, but, I decided to do pills with him one time, and, I loved it, and I've been doing it moderately since then, and then began to be every other day. I never was the type to do them every day, which is good, mainly because of how fucking expensive those things are. But yeah, I had self-control in that. I mean, bro, I didn't have self-control. Let me stop. So yeah, I was taking those things, and things in my house started to get worse and worse. Me, my brother, and my dad all got into a physical altercation that day, and when I realized that it was unpredictable and just a dangerous environment, and just somewhere that I could not be mentally, I had to move. So, and there was just a bunch of shit going on in my life at the time too. I decided to move out that day. I found a roommate on, I believe, Roomies, and I checked out the house one day. It was a nice house, 3-bedroom, fenced in yard, driveway, all that. So it was a nice house to move into. I could have a nice life there, and I was just imagining it all. So when I got there, I was working at FedEx and a pet shelter, because I love animals. I do love animals. But I was also selling drugs at the time. I was selling weed, a lot of weed. that was basically it, just weed and just things around weed. So, I came to this new town with really knowing nobody and having to pay $900 in rent to the landlord that I share a house with, you know what I mean? But the landlord was cool, like he was in his 20s too. He's like, yeah, man, I throw parties here sometimes, you can smoke and, do all this. I felt, I had freedom there. I wasn't really limited to nothing. And to be honest, like, the dude was low-key cool with me selling weed, which was not good for his sake, but, at the time, me thinking, like, that was good, So, I started to get really comfortable with living there and with having my own house. And, this landlord kind of just let me walk over him and just kind of let me run this house like a trap house, kind of. And my dumbass was, meeting people where I fucking laid my head to rest. I was moving like a sloppy dickhead, and I got caught like a sloppy dickhead, So as I was living here, FedEx and, my shelter job, those are both jobs that aren't gonna pay shit, man. And, I had shit I needed to keep up on, like literally all my bills. And, I had ambitions to save money, or not save money, but make more money. And, just what I was doing wasn't doing it. So I started to put myself out there and just like post up at gas stations and fucking stores and smoke shops and shit, and try to catch people going in, expand my weed clientele and marijuana and shit, while also taking perks here and there at the same time. And then over time, I realized that, taking perks was an expensive habit, a very expensive habit. Those pills could go for $40-$50 each, for the 30s, and, like double the dollar amount of whatever the milligram is, so that's the expensive addiction. So at the time, it only sounded right to start selling these things to be able to afford my habit, make it cheaper, and also just make money like in every possible way that I could, not really caring about the alternative. And and while I was down there, let's just be honest, while I was down there, of course I met people that were into shit as well. Of course I met people that were doing their own thing and had some motion going on in the street or whatever. And I met this one guy who told me a number on the perk 30s that, like, shit was damn near unbeatable around there, and the dude seemed genuine. Talked to him a couple times before. Didn't seem like he was like kingpin, like finesse god, nothing, bro. He was just like anybody else for real, but with other connections that I have, so he pointed me towards, some very cheap pills. Not very cheap, but, the cheapest you could possibly get that I didn't have access to. So I started fucking with him with those. For the 30s specifically, I would get the 10s and the 30s, mostly at all times. But yeah, let's just be honest, here, those perks that dude sold me that were cheap were obviously fake, obviously fentanyl. And at the time, this was last year, a little over a year ago. I'm new to perks. I'm new to damn near most shit. I didn't understand that fentanyl was damn near in every damn perk 30 there is, and just most pills nowadays. and I didn't even know how to test to see if it was, or know the difference between the high, you know, like, I really didn't. And I'm not gonna sit here and lie to y'all, like, I've done some of those perk 30s. I've done some. Like, I was never big on taking perk 30s because I didn't want to take a whole 30 anyway. I would crush it up in half, and most of the time it would just turn to powder, so I wouldn't even want to, like, take them for real. Like, I would take the 10s. But I've taken some 30s before. And, you know, to be honest with y'all, I could not tell the difference. Like, I can't tell the difference. It's a identical high. And that shit fucking can destroy your brain. Especially for people that have never used it before. So, you know, this dude's deceiving me the whole time. And let me think. You know, it's crazy because I've had encounters with witches throughout this time, like real witches that have had problems with me and that have claimed to do shit against me, and that I've seen at random points, and they'll just smile at me like menacingly, and it just makes me feel like they know something. Just like thinking about back on everything that has happened through this period of time made me feel like it was destined to happen. You know, it was destined to happen. And I feel like people knew about it, you know, type, like, I don't know, had insight on what was about to happen, you know, with these witches. I don't know. But, you know, it was crazy. One day, you know, I got really sick. I got somehow. Mononucleosis is what it's called. And, you know, I was alone, like, completely independent, you know, and I was completely stupid, didn't even know how to be independent. And, you know, here I am with a disease that, like, I can't even fucking swallow nothing, eat food, keep water down, like I was destroyed. And, you know, ended up going to the hospital because of, you know, not eating and everything. And they had said I needed a caretaker in there in order to get out. I'm like, I gotta get out, you know, I got my rent to, like, pay and shit. I gotta make my rent. I gotta get out of here. I can't sit in here. And they said I needed a caretaker. I was weak as fuck. Like, a 12-year-old could have probably murdered me with his bare hands. Like, I was weak as fuck, you know? Like, look at my arm. Imagine me losing 20 pounds. That's what happened. And this was 6 to 8 months ago, maybe. No, I'm retarded. That was over a year ago. Over a year ago. It was when I lived at the old house, where I was selling it, you know, during the midst of all this. So I'd gotten out, and, you know, I'd had no caretaker. My mom had, I'm not gonna lie, like, my stomach was destroyed. And, you know, I went back to my mom's house to stay there for a couple of days to get right. I threw up in her bed, and she kicked me out because she was in the shower. And, like, you know, this is like, I don't know, this is a fucking, some dumb shit. She kicked me out because I threw up in her bed and I wanted to shower instantly. So I went back to my house, you know, already mad that, like, my mom didn't even want to take care of me when I damn near felt like I was dying. So at that point, I was just ready to die. I was ready to, you know, just end it all right there. So what I did was I took, you know, on a completely empty stomach after days, keep in mind I'm off this sickness that is making me throw up everything, I take 2 of these fentanyl 30s, swallow them, bang. I'm like, all right, like, I'm gonna just lay here. I'm gonna lay here and just smoke this blunt until whatever happens, you know? I took 2 of them, you know, after I was laid down, I'd take another, 3 perk 30s in my system with absolutely no calorie in my stomach. Like, should have killed me. Man, like, I was out of my mind high that day, and I ended up started to, like, as I was sitting there, I started to watch videos like, oh, well, like, if you kill yourself, do you make it to heaven? Like, will God forgive you if you commit suicide, da-da-da. And as I was reading, it just made me realize, like, the fuck am I doing, The fuck am I doing? I went and made myself throw up, and I had some chicken noodle soup, and I felt better. I'm not gonna lie, I don't understand how the fuck it worked, and how I didn't die. That's what it was, alright? And, but past that, we're talking about what I did. So, after that, I was like, alright, hop back on my shit. I was still selling those things, though, because, keep in mind, I still think they're perks. I still think they're just pills that, obviously it's opioids. You can overdose on that regardless, and that's what I was planning on doing at the time. But, shit didn't happen, obviously. So, you know what? Actually, I believe this was 2 days after I had attempted to kill myself last year. This one dude that I would deal with and stuff, he came through.